Okay, today's lesson is going to deal with photo analysis. What is a photo analysis? It's simply what it sounds like. We're analyzing, breaking down an image. It doesn't necessarily have to be a photo. It can be a piece of art. It can be a comic strip. Okay, let's look at optic strategy. OPTIC is an acronym that stands for Overview, Parts, Title, Interrelationship, and Conclusion. So let's begin by looking at overview. So a question that will be posed with overview is, in complete sentences, what is the image about? Parts. What stands out in the image? What details are important? Title. What might the title suggest about the image? So what does it make us think about? Title. Interrelationships. It's all about describing the mood and tone of the image. And again, what is it? How does it relate to you? That's critical. And finally, conclusion. So, can I write a concluding paragraph about the image as a whole? And what is the message of the image? So, that requires me to use some critical thinking and apply the first four. Now, let's look at our objectives. Our objectives are to process and analyze visuals and understand rhetorical criticism. So we're here to process and analyze visuals. That gets back to analyzing, breaking down, and understanding rhetorical criticism. So these two are tied together. Rhetorical means argument. So the image is making an argument. We have to determine what that image is. It's no different than analyzing a text or determining a theme or a central idea. Let's look at the first image here. So we're going to talk about what details, what stands out in the image, and what details are important. So looking at this image, first thing we notice is that she's blind. We can infer that because she's wearing a blind sign. And we can see that this one eye doesn't seem as sharp as the other eye. So our job is to kind of break down the image, determine what's important, what stands out. We can look at the photo. We can determine that this photo was taken at a later time, at an early time. So to be specific, the name of this painting or image is Blind Woman by Paul Strand, which was taken in 1916. So if we look at this image, we can infer that this lady is most likely someone who's begging, or the sign could simply be to let people know that she's blind and kind of look out for her. But we can kind of infer that maybe she's looking for assistance. And so basically, if you had background on the time period, we know that disabled people with disabilities weren't really taken care of as they are today. So that's just a way to look at background. So let's look at mood and tone of an image. So if we look at this photo, we can infer that there's a young girl who was reunited with her mother. So the tone is very emotional, very joyful, has a joyful tone. If we move on to the next image, we're going to kind of compare these two images. So how is this image similar to the previous one? And how are they different? Clearly they're similar in the fact that they're both soldiers coming home. So we see a father being reunited with his family, and his children are happy and joyful. Looking at their clothing, we can infer, and that is in it's a black and white photo as well. We can infer this photo was taken in the 60s or 70s. So a little background information. We know that this is a father returning from the Vietnam War. And the image previously was the most recent war. So we can kind of see the comparison here. Lastly, let's take a look at a side-by-side comparison, and we'll go a little deeper. So we're going to take all the information we learned here today about optic, and we're going to kind of do a synthesis here. So let's do a side-by-side comparison. The VJ daytime square photo, which most of us have seen, which is a very well-known image, and the fall of the Berlin Wall, which you may not have as much background on. So if we look at the fall of the Berlin Wall, as a young child, I do remember this happening because it was a big deal. I remember watching this, having the television on in my classroom as an elementary school kid. And we know that the wall came down, and that which separated East and West Germany from itself. That was the effects of World War II, that Germany was split into two, the East and the West. And in the 80s, that wall came down, and the people were united again. So it has the same tone. So the similar tone is that they're all these images are joyful and happy and celebratory. So again, when we do an optic strategy, let's make sure that we understand our objectives and we understand what the optic stands for. What is the image about? What stands out? What details are important? What might the title suggest about the image? The mood, tone. What is the mood and tone? What does it remind you of? Can I write a paragraph, a concluding paragraph? And make sure that we understand these further objectives, which is to process and analyze visuals and understand rhetorical criticism. Okay, we're going to stop here. But thank you for tuning in, and we'll continue later.